Hey, what's up guys? My name is Jedith, and guys, guess what? Today, our prayers have been answered. Well, some of them at least, not all of them, but this one is very important because we have finally received buffs that we actually think are gonna make a difference in Raid. Some of the previous buffs we've got over the past week or two have left us scratching our head, right? Like a buff to Fellblade, a buff to our auto attacks, a buff to Demon Blades, and just really strange stuff. But today, we got buffs to our actual abilities and our actual talents that are going to actually increase our DPS. So, the first buff we got is Chaos Strike and Annihilation damage increased by 10%. This is great. 10% is nothing to sneeze at. That is a large amount, and it's actually going to make a massive difference because you have to think about all the other modifiers that we have on our Annihilations, right? We have Essence Break, which is an 85%. We have Momentum, unfortunately, which is 8%. Then we have things like Relentless Onslaught that we take in our single target build now, which has a 10% chance to just do another Chaos Strike. There's a lot of things that are actually buffing up the power of Annihilations, and, you know, we're adding an extra 10% on top of that. It's basically like making this, you know, doubling this talent here. Improved Chaos Strike. Chaos Strike damage increased by 10%. We got two of those now, essentially. So, Chaos Strike being improved is a great thing. It's not only going to affect our single target damage in Raid, but maybe a little bit in our Mythic Plus build as well. Ideally, we're not, you know, pressing our Chaos Strike or Annihilation all that often in Mythic Plus and AoE, but sometimes you do press it, and it's definitely going to help there as well. So the second buff is First Blood. Damage bonus to first enemy struck increased to 95%. Was 75. So this is a big one. This is very big. First Blood was already nerfed earlier in the expansion. I can't remember what it was at previously. I want to say it was something like 85, and it got nerfed down to 75 because our death sweeps were just doing way too much damage. But now, they've gone ahead and they have buffed it well above where it was previously, and now it's 95. So, as you can imagine, this doesn't just help our single target, because we're not only pressing Blade Dance and Death Sweep in single target, we are pressing it in AoE as well. And if you look at the talent, Blade Dance deals 27,241 chaos damage to the first target struck. So even in an AoE pack, it's doing that to the first target, and then you know, in single target, it's just blasting. And it should be noted that when you're taking this in the AoE build, it's doing chaos damage, right? So that is being affected by any means necessary, so it bumps that up. But if we swap over to our single target build, we can see that we are still taking that talent in single target, and we still do have Trail of Ruin and things like Dancing with Fate. So Death Sweep and Blade Dance is a massive portion of our damage in our in both builds, right? So this is probably the most substantial buff that we got today. First Blood, all the way up to 95%. I can't stress how kind of crazy this is. It's not like, okay, it's not going to make our damage insane, right? We're not like completely broken now, but I think you're going to be surprised at some of the death sweep crits that we're going to get when you're combining this buff with things like Know Your Enemy and you know, some of the other things that we have in our talent tree. We're going to be doing some pretty hefty death sweeps now. So the next one that we got is Inner Demon. Damage increased by 30%. So that's this talent. Entering demon form causes your next Chaos Strike to unleash your inner demon, causing it to crash into your target and deal 23,000 chaos damage to all nearby enemies. So when you I-beam, that counts as putting you into demon form, right? Because we're taking the demonic talent. So the first Chaos Strike or Annihilation that you press after I-beaming is essentially going to cleave. It becomes a cleave ability. So this is an effect that we get not just from, you know, getting into demon form, but it also happens when you refresh it. So when you I-beam, you put your, like for your opener, for example, you I-beam, you put yourself into demon form, and then you meta, and you I-beam again. Even though you're staying in meta form or in demon form that entire time, you are getting a reset on it with the second I-beam, so you get a second annihilation. And this is actually something you should be utilizing and using in your rotation, in your opener. Even on single target, you definitely want to be spending those inner demon procs in your opener. So keep that in mind. So just adding an extra 30% on top of this is obviously going to affect our AoE and our cleave when you are playing that talent in those situations. But even in single target, adding an extra 30% damage onto that, we sort of estimated that that alone is going to be about a 1% increase to our DPS. So if we pull this back up and we just look at each of these individually, you know, Chaos Strike Annihilation, that's a pretty clear damage increase. Don't need to look too much into that. It's just raw damage. It's going to be good. The First Blood one, it's going to be somewhere around like, you know, a 10, 11-ish% increase to our death sweeps and our blade dances. Like I said, this one is going to be the most impactful, and it's going to be pretty freaking crazy. And then the Inner Demon one, like I said, 1% in single target, and then just a lot more in cleave. So one thing that we need to note, because we are, you know, increasing our Chaos Strikes and our death sweeps, this does help facilitate us using 2-piece from our previous set and 2-piece from our new set. Now, not as like a best option. Your best option is still always going to be your 4-piece in the new set. But if you happen to get, you know, 2 pieces first and you don't have enough to fill out the 4-piece, this allows that to actually be a viable option now, because our previous tier set, the 2-piece is Chaos Strike and Blade Dance. Chance to critically strike is increased by 5%, and their critical strike damage is increased by 10%. So we're still keeping that, and, you know, on top of the new buffs we got today to both of those abilities, it stacks up pretty well. And then you get the 2-piece from the new set, and yeah, you can wear both. Of course, this is something you have to sim. Don't just assume that wearing 2-piece and 2-piece is going to be an upgrade. Always sim it, but all I'm saying is, like, these buffs sort of help make that a reality. It may not be the case for you. Maybe your gear is different and it might not work, but definitely look into it if you do get 2 pieces of tier before you get your 4-piece. Other than that, these buffs are, I really think, are going to help us in raid. This week I've been doing decently in raid, but I think it was mostly because I got gear quicker than the rest of my raid group. You know, I started doing Mythic Plus right away. I got really lucky with raid drops. So you can see I'm already at like 427, almost 428 eye level. And the rest of my raid, they're going to be doing their Mythic Plus this weekend. That's when they're going to start getting their upgrades. So they're still down, you know, at 424 in that area. So in raid this week, it felt like I was doing decently well. Like I was actually seeing myself on the meters for the first time in about 6 months. But I do think that, you know, as they start getting gear, it's going to even out a bit. But because we got these buffs today, I think that's going to raise us up just a little bit more, and we're going to be a bit more competitive when it comes to our raid, competing on the meters, if you will. So, yeah, super exciting, guys. I'm really happy that we got these buffs. This doesn't fix all of our problems. As you might know, I put out a tweet on, of course, Twitter the other day. It's a 11-tweet long thread going over all of the pain points of Havoc. And if you haven't read that yet, I'll put a link down to it in the description. There's so many more things that I would hope we can address this expansion and get most of it sorted out before we go into the next expansion. A lot of them aren't things that they can just, you know, adjust in hot fixes. These are more practical gameplay type things. But listen, we're taking baby steps. We're taking what we can get. If they want to give us these buffs that are going to actually make us competitive in raid, we're going to take them. So if you like this video, give it a like. If you haven't subbed to the channel yet, please sub, and keep an eye on the channel for more Havoc Demon Hunter news. I just want to let you guys know also before I end the video, I am going to be going on vacation starting on the 18th. I'll be gone till about the 29th. So I'm going to Japan for about a week with a pal, and we're gonna have some fun out there, man. It's an all-inclusive trip. Everything's paid for. We're gonna be living like kings out in Japan. I'll try to, you know, record some content out there. But in terms of videos on YouTube and streams and whatnot, they probably won't be happening. So just to let you guys know, so you know what to expect. All right, I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.